How's everyone doing today? My name's Nathan Russell, and thanks for chiming in. I'm fighting for an independent Ohio, so if you want a t-shirt with your name in there and you want to start becoming independent, I'll take anybody. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Green Party people, Bernie Bros, or progressives, shall I call them. If you want to start engaging in your political realm, this thing with these people that consistently want to tell us what to do, now they're bullying us. They hit us once, they're hitting us again. And if you want to be part of a group that wants to fight back, by all means, join an independent Ohio. Together, collectively, we can come up with our own solutions to fix our problems that we're willing to work for, and we'll make our representatives fight for them. And if they don't, then we'll have a big enough group to be able to start running our own candidates to go up there and fight for us. Red-blooded, hard-working American citizens. So, that's how I feel. It ain't gonna get no better just sitting there and waiting. So, anyway, today I want to talk a little bit about the virus, how we've been lied to about it, and who's responsible. There's a couple good representatives, sadly enough to say they're both Republicans. I would like to hear some Democrats at least start wanting to really get to the bottom of this and who caused this lab-made virus. Because that's truly what I believe out of all the different doctors that I've listened to about it. I talked to nurses about it. This vaccine thing that we funded. We gave Bill Gates and all these places money to make this vaccine. But COVID is a real thing. They're using it to their advantage in all sorts of different ways. And we're tired of it. We want these representatives to do what we collectively want them to do. They're getting ready to start taking some things from us again. It's part of the plan. You could actually YouTube Event 201 and you could watch and listen, engage, focus your attention and pay attention. But there's 3 videos. They're most of hours long. And you'll know what the smart people know. You'll see how far they've gotten through the plan. And you'll see where we're at. And if you watch to the end, you'll see the conclusion. But at the end of the day, something this big, nobody really knows what the end conclusion is. But if we don't start collectively grouping together, talking about these issues, then look, with evidence, not just speculation based off of rhetoric, then it's only going to get worse. So let's go ahead and dabble into here. I'm going to start off with Rand Paul and then Jim Jordan from Ohio, actually.
Dr. Fauci, we don't know whether the pandemic started in a lab in Wuhan or evolved naturally, but we should want to know. 3 million people have died from this pandemic, and that should cause us to explore all possibilities. Instead, government authorities, self-interested in continuing gain-of-function research,
Watch
say
this
there's
guy in the
nothing to
first
see
clip.
here. Gain-of-function
It's
research,
funny.
as you know, is juicing up naturally occurring animal viruses to infect humans. To arrive at the truth, the U.S. government should admit that the Wuhan Virology Institute was experimenting to enhance the coronavirus's ability to infect humans. Juicing up superviruses is not new. Scientists in the U.S. have long known how to mutate animal viruses to infect humans. For years, Dr. Ralph Barrick, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. This gain-of-function research has been funded by the NIH. The collaboration between the U.S. and the Wuhan Virology Institute continues. Doctors Barrick and Shi worked together to insert bat virus spike protein into the backbone of the deadly SARS virus, and then used this man-made supervirus to infect human airway cells. Think about that for a moment. The SARS virus had a 15% mortality. We're fighting a pandemic that has about a 1% mortality. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, to the spike protein, if that were released accidentally? Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect.
He looks like a
That the
crook.
NIH has
And
not
a
ever
liar.
and does not now fund
He literally
gain of
looks like a
function
snake to
research
me.
in the Wuhan Institute
Do they
of
fund
Virology.
Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina, not
You don't think
in
inserting
China.
a bat virus spike protein that he got
See
from the
that
Wuhan
guy?
Institute into the SARS
like
virus
that.
is gain-of-function?
That is
So, right there, we know Dr. Fauci's been lying to us. My issue with it is because of the circumstances and based off all the evidence that's been coming out since COVID, this man should be in prison. They should lock him up until his trial. Just like what they would do to me or you. And you know it. Tired of these crooks getting away with nothing. So here's some more.
Scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor
maintain
gain-of-function research
that
in
the
China.
disease
You are
arose
saying
naturally.
things that are not correct.
Government defenders of gain-of-function, such as yourself, say that COVID-19 mutations were random and not designed by man. But interestingly, the technique that Dr. Barrick developed forces mutations by serial passage through cell culture that the mutations appear to be natural. In fact, Dr. Barrick named the technique the no-see-em technique because the mutations appear naturally. Nicholas Baker of the New York Magazine said nobody would know if the virus had been fabricated in a laboratory or grown in nature. Government authorities in the U.S., including yourself, unequivocally deny that COVID-19 could have escaped a lab. But even Dr. Shi in Wuhan wasn't so sure. According to Nicholas Baker, Dr. Shi wondered, could this new virus have come from her own laboratory? She checked her records frantically and found no matches. That really took a load off my mind, she said. I had not slept for days. The director of the gain-of-function research in Wuhan couldn't sleep because she was terrified that it might be in her lab. Dr. Barrick, an advocate of gain-of-function research, admits the main problem that the Institute of Virology has is the outbreak occurred in close proximity. What are the odds? Barrick responded, could you rule out a laboratory escape? The answer in this case is probably not. Will you, in front of this group, categorically say that the COVID-19 could not have occurred through serial passage in a laboratory?
I do not have any accounting of what the Chinese may have done, and I'm fully in favor of any further investigation of what went on in China. However, I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
You do support it in the U.S. We have 11 labs doing it, and you have allowed it here. We have a committee to do it, but the committee has granted every exemption. You're fooling with Mother Nature here. You're allowing superviruses to be created with a 15% mortality. It's very dangerous. I think it was a huge mistake to share this with China, and it's a huge mistake to allow this to continue in the United States. And we should be very careful to investigate where this virus came from.
I fully agree that you should investigate where the virus came from. But again, we have not funded gain-of-function research on this virus in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, no matter how many times.
That was the first time he was in front of Congress. So kudos to Rand Paul. He's a doctor. He's trying to get to the bottom of this because COVID is a thing, man. Cannot believe they did this to the whole planet. Everybody around the planet had to deal with COVID. So this, I got some of Rand Paul. This is him going after Fauci because Fauci's lying.
Credits the NIH and lists the actual number of the grant that she was given by the NIH. In this paper, she took 2 bat coronavirus genes, spike genes, and combined them with a SARS-related backbone to create new viruses that are not found in nature. These lab-created viruses were then shown to replicate in humans. These experiments combined genetic information from different coronaviruses that infect animals but not humans to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human cells. Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not.
So, right there, you seen them going at each other again. Reminds me of my soap opera drama crap, but it's a real thing. Fauci is lying. There does need to be more to investigate. Definitely keep it going on. but by all means, Fauci should be in jail. So let's go to this last clip with Rand, and then we'll...
Research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals, and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's send Dr. Fauci.
I have.
So Rand Paul was able to dig through all the information that we got, and he pulled this out. He's literally one of the only senators out there trying to get down to the bottom of this. And he wants to point the finger at somebody because we all inherently know that somebody needs to take responsibility of this. I believe it's bigger, and there's other people that are telling Fauci what to do. They should have to pay the consequence. If you haven't noticed, you've seen a lot of Bill Gates' face floating around trying to talk about this. Oh yeah, by the way, one of his nonprofit charity organizations, right? They funded Event 201. And he called out the fact that the next president, before Donald Trump became president, was going to have to go through a major pandemic. He just didn't let us know that it was going to be this bad all around the world. So, believe what you want to believe. Learn. By all means, do not take my opinion for it. Like, I can only show you these snippets. But learn for yourself. Engage. Start actually listening to the people who are trying to get to the bottom of this. So that was the second time Fauci was in front of our Congress. One of the committee members... in front of the committee that's supposed to look into this stuff for us, our representatives. So let's dabble into Jim Jordan.
Initially, this virus initially came on the scene. Dr. Fauci initially told the American people you don't need to wear a mask. Then he later said, no, you need to wear a mask. Then he said, no, you need to wear 2 masks. Then after that, he said, no, back to 1 mask. Then of course, we went to no mask, and now he's talking about we need to wear a mask again. When it comes to the question of the origin of the virus, Dr. Fauci's had just as many positions. He initially said the United States taxpayer money did not fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He later changed that and says, no, we did fund it, but it was through a sub-grant. Then he subsequently said, no, we funded it, but we did no gain-of-function research. And then just last Sunday, he said, well, we funded it. There was gain-of-function research, but it was a sound scientific decision. And then he said this: it would have been negligent to not fund the lab in China. I mean, talk about being all over the board. I'll tell you what's negligent. Negligent is Dr. Fauci's ever-changing statements to the American people regarding the subject matter that this committee should be looking into. I want you to look at this.
So right there, Jim Jordan ended up telling you that all these different times that Dr. Fauci turns back on what he said because he's lying, and he knew he was lying at the time about COVID to everybody. But he'll only do that closed doors now. Because anytime in a public committee, if he's asked by certain people certain questions, he don't want it to be public. He don't want us to hear him lie to us and get called out in front of Congress because he has to answer to them. So check this out.
Got that we were able to view through the FOIA request about this goes clear back to January 31st, 2020, a 10:32 p.m. email that Dr. Fauci received from Dr. Christian Anderson. Dr. Christian Anderson is one of the individuals who gets our tax dollars. The folks I represent, their tax dollars. Dr. Anderson sent this email to Dr. Fauci, and he said this: the unusual features of the virus make up a really small part of the genome, so one has to look really closely at all the sequence to see that some of the features look engineered. And that last clause is the key. Some of the features of this virus look engineered. He went on to say further, I should mention that after discussions earlier today with Eddie, Bob, Mike, these are other virologists, other doctors around the world who receive our tax dollars via grants from Dr. Fauci. Eddie, Bob, and Mike and myself all find the genome inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. That's a fancy way of saying it's not consistent with evolutionary theory. So the virus looks engineered, not consistent with evolutionary theory. Less than 24 hours after this email, the very next day, less than 24 hours later, Dr. Fauci organizes a conference call with 11 virologists from around the world. He's the only person from the government on that call, and that's where they talk about getting their story straight and what they're going to tell the American people, even though one of the top scientists in the world says this virus is engineered, this virus is not consistent with evolutionary theory. Now, we don't know what happened on that phone call because every single email regarding that phone call, every single one, has been redacted. I hope the majority will actually join us in calling for these to be unredacted and given to this committee.
Right there. He showed us that Dr. Fauci's a snake. And he's lying. And he can't be transparent because he knows what he's been doing was bad. And if we know about it, we see about it, we learn about it, he knows he should be in jail. He is a criminal. They'll put us in jail quicker than shit. But they're immune to going to prison for their crimes. So the whole thing was redacted that they got. They had it sent to them with everything blacked out. There's nothing about freedom and liberty to that at all. So check this out. What Jim says.
This Thursday, we just found out, this Thursday, the majority has asked Dr. Fauci to come back in front of this committee for a third time. Third time. But guess what? It's not going to be public. It's going to be private. Private briefing. After all these concerns have been raised, you got what Dr. Gerard said, you got what everyone says. Anyone with common sense now knows the most likely origin of this virus was that lab in Wuhan, China. The Democrats bringing Dr. Fauci back, but he won't be in public. A private briefing. Why? Why won't you do it publicly? Dr. Fauci's testified 18 times in front of Congress. He's been on every news show you can imagine, more than once. You can't go a day without seeing him on TV. But now the Select Committee on Coronavirus won't bring him in for a public hearing to address these issues. Nope, it's going to be private. As I said earlier, the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal think we should get to the bottom of this. Pretty much everyone thinks we should get to the bottom of this, except the Democrats on the Select Committee on Coronavirus.
So, yeah, that's a snake. He does not want to go back to a public hearing when congressmen are literally showing him the paperwork of what the scientists and the doctors are saying and get called out for his decision making through COVID. And there's a lot more to this, people. It's crazy, but I think I have my fuzzy little monkey brain wrapped around it. And it's so amazing how much there is to this COVID. But it's big. It happened all around the world, even in Russia, even in China, Every country went through what it was going through and what it is still going through, because finally people are going out and learning that we have shortages in all of our supplies, let's say, because of the corporate structure all around the world. You're going to start running into things you're not going to be able to purchase anymore. It was part of the plan. All you have to do is spend some of your quality time on watching Event 201. And you'll see exactly what's coming. So, we need to do something to change this. It's a pretty long video. This is going to be about 30 minutes. Hopefully you stuck with me. We have a lot to go over. There is a lot of things that we need to start talking about to keep our families safe. So, if you're picking up what I'm throwing down, by all means, like, subscribe, share. It's the only way this message can get out. You have to share. It's computer algorithms. I learned about it, and it works. It literally works. If you want to subscribe, if you want to donate, you want to purchase a shirt with your name on here for an Independent Ohio, together, collectively, hopefully we'll get big enough and we'll have Independent Ohio Fridays, where everybody, all us red-blooded, hard-working American citizens, will wear our Independent Ohio shirts on Fridays. Whether you're in an office, whether you're in a factory, restaurants, hopefully. I'm hoping a lot of you, the business owners, will participate, because after they're done with us, the only people they got to come after is you, and they're coming after you now. I know you feel it. By all means, reach out. Let's try to come up with some ideas to fix these problems. Thank you very much for your time, and y'all, good luck to all, and to each their own.